when we used to have the Prime Minister Tony Blair, he was Cockney rhyming slang for hair. So we'd say, I'm going to the barber's to get my Tony cut, and then we'll go to the pub for a couple of Britneys.
Welcome to English with Lewis. Let's go! Hello, everybody, and welcome back to English with Lewis once again. And oh, sorry about that. I
Bless
can't
you.
stop sneezing. John, hello. How are you?
Hi. I hope I'm not going to catch anything off you.
If that can happen over Zoom, then wow. This
Be
is
surprised.
crazy.
Technology these days.
So, I just sneezed, and John, what did you say in response?
I blessed you. I said, bless you.
Bless you, bless you. Do not say Jesus. I have many people from Spain in particular that if I sneeze, they say, oh, Jesus.
Really?
Excuse me. Because in Spanish, it is Jesús.
Oh,
Instead of
really? I didn't know
Jesus.
that.
Fun fact of the day. But yes,
I might say Jesus if you sneeze really loudly. Go, Jesus.
Wow, calm down. Jesus.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Interesting fact of the day. But yeah, I have a bit of a hay fever. So an allergy to pollen and to spring. So if you see me sneezing, coughing, my eyes are watering or anything, it's because I have hay fever. So bless me. But anyway, we have an amazing guest today. So John, do us a favor and introduce yourself.
Oh, it's me, is it? I thought you had another guest, an amazing guest.
Jesus?
Yeah. When's he coming? So, yeah, thanks very much for having me, first of all. It's a pleasure to be here. So, my name is John. If anybody knows me from John's English page predominantly on Instagram, but we've also got pages on TikTok. We've got Facebook, and also a little bit of YouTube. So yeah, that's what I do. I teach English on these pages. I'm an English teacher by profession, and yeah, we're pushing forward on all social channels at the moment. This is the plan. Yeah, and this is where we met, isn't it?
Exactly. I reached out to you on Instagram. I dropped you a message. I slid into your DMs, your direct messages. But yeah, so you're an English teacher, and where do you live?
I live in Italy. I've been in Italy for the last more than 20 years now. So I've been teaching English here all that time. I taught English before I came here as well. So I've been in this game for a long time.
Exactly. Wow. And whereabouts in Italy?
Well, I'll tell you the name of the city. A lot of people don't know it. It's called Reggio Calabria. I said that with an English accent. But if you think about Italy as a boot, which a lot of people do, the shape of a boot, it's right on the toe, just opposite Sicily.
Interesting.
As far south as you can get, really.
And what's it like? Because many people know Venice, Rome, Milan, but Reggio Calabria as a region, what's it like?
Yeah, well, the region is actually Calabria. The city is Reggio Calabria, or Reggio di Calabria is the full name. It's, how can I explain? It's very, very beautiful in terms of scenery. It's a pretty laid back lifestyle, which is why I wanted to come here in the first place. It's got all the typical things that you would say about Italy, like good food and sunshine and smiley, happy people. So, yeah, it's a nice place to live in that respect. But unemployment's very high. So many of the services are not what they could be. So, you know, it's certainly not the richest town in Italy. And it's not one of the most famous places for tourism. That said, things are changing slightly. I've noticed a little bit of a change in attitude that started Ryanair flights coming here as well, which I think is going to change things. Direct flights from Manchester, from Barcelona, I think, and Germany. So, yeah, so that's Reggio Calabria. It's a good place to live, pretty laid back, but it's certainly not the center of the universe.
And Italian food is known for pasta, pizza, risotto, gelato. Are there any regional dishes that you would recommend someone if they went and visited Reggio Calabria?
Well, there are quite a few actually. So first of all, I can say we because
Yeah,
I've
I
been there
know. You're
20 years.
Italian now.
Come on, mamma mia. So we've
Hey.
got we've got what is supposedly one of the best gelaterias, ice cream shops in Europe, I believe. Certainly in Italy, which is called Cesare. There you go. It's a little nod to Cesare. It's a very small ice cream shop in the middle of the town on the seafront, and that was voted best gelateria a couple of years back. So certainly the ice cream is something to try. Typical of Calabria itself, they like spicy stuff. So I don't know if you like spicy. You like curry, don't you? Do I remember that right? Did
I
you?
love curry. I love anything spicy. As people might have heard me say before, that my cheeks go red and I start sweating, but I love spicy food.
Yeah, so you'd like some of the food here because they like spicy food. So the chili peppers are very common ingredients.
Uh-huh.
One of the things which we eat quite often, although I don't think it's typically Calabrese or Calabrian, is pasta with, in English, it would be pasta with garlic and chili peppers. It's quite a simple dish, but very, very tasty. Typical foods of this area, normally spicy things. So we've got a thing called nduja. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah, yeah, it's all over the place at the moment on like pizzas
Really?
and pastas. I think it's finally started to be exported to the rest
Ah,
of the
okay.
world. And it's like chorizo, but in like a paste almost.
Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty good description. It's like a sausage, but it's a paste, it's spreadable, and it's got loads of chili peppers in it. So it's really spicy. And you can do all sorts with it. You know, you can eat it just spread on bread, but also, you know, if you heat it up, it takes on a life of its own. All the oils come out and you can dip your bread in it and, you know, very nice. Yeah.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, we'll
Yeah.
continue speaking about Italy, Italian food and stuff like that. But let's go back to you and your so you've been in Italy for 20 years and you were a teacher before then. Was
Yeah.
that in the UK or elsewhere?
Yeah, in the UK. So when I finished university, I took the CELTA course to train to be an English language teacher to foreigners. Can you say foreigners anymore? I don't know. I don't know what you can say anymore. Maybe non-natives. Is
Uh-huh.
that okay? That'll
Yeah.
be okay for the next 10 years, and then we have to change it again. Anyway, my intentions are good to teach
Uh-huh.
people to speak English. And yeah, I started that. I did that in England for 2 years in a place called Bournemouth, right in the south of England.
Mhm.
And then after a couple of years, as I already spoke a little bit of Italian because I started learning at university. So I did a degree in English at university, and part of that we had to do a module in Italian. So I had to quickly learn Italian. You can't quickly learn Italian.
Quickly, yeah.
Yeah, I did my best. I got up to sort of like A1 level or something. And then we were suddenly given Dante's Inferno to read, which is impossible because, you know, even if you've got advanced level, anyway, this was what we did. So that's where it started. I started by learning Italian at university. And I decided I wanted to go abroad because, as you know, with this job, you can teach anywhere. And Italy seemed like a logical choice because I spoke a bit of Italian. You know, I could work abroad if I wanted to.
Excellent, wonderful. And you were working in Bournemouth. I must admit that I've never been to Bournemouth. I've heard that it's a lovely seaside town in the south, but to be honest, apart from Cornwall and London, I don't really know any of the south of England. And it's embarrassing to say because I'm from the north, I'm from Yorkshire. But yeah, what's Bournemouth like?
Bournemouth. Well, it used to be famous for like as a retirement place, like for old people. This is where it used to be famous because initially it was a very important Victorian resort. You know, lots of people used to go on a holiday there because it's by the sea. It's got long, sandy beaches, very beautiful in that respect. And then it took on this kind of new sort of persona as a retirement place. And then it changed again about sort of 30 years ago. It started to become a bit more sort of frequented by younger people. And then there were lots of nightclubs came up and sprang up. And before you knew it, it was like a party capital, you know. So a lot of people go there now. There's a mixture, really. You get old people, but you also get families and you get young people going out in the evening. So it's certainly, I'd recommend going there. It's a good place. And it's full of language schools. So if anybody's watching and they want to learn English or go to England, they also, you know, people will come up to me and say, John, can you recommend a school in London? And I'll say, are you sure you want to go to London? I mean, London's great, but there are other places as well. And Bournemouth is one place what I would really recommend it. It's only about 2 hours from London on the train, and it is full of language schools, and you're right by the sea. It's a lovely little town. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I'll write it down on my list, on my bucket list of places to go and places to visit. But are you from Bournemouth?
I lived all my life in the south of England, so not always in Bournemouth, but various different towns in the south of England. When I was very young, we used to live in the countryside in Surrey, which is a county south of London. Then we moved to a place called Aldershot, which is in Hampshire. And then when I was about I suppose in my late teens, we moved down to Bournemouth. So I lived there until I came to Italy.
Okay, awesome. Now,
You're from Leeds, aren't you? Are you from Leeds?
Well, to be honest, I kind of lie to people a little bit. Let's say I stretch the truth. Because I say I'm from Leeds just because it's easier, so people maybe recognize where I'm from, and then they'd be like, "Oh yeah, Leeds United, of course." Sometimes that doesn't work, and then I have to say I'm from Manchester. But truth be told, I'm from a little town called Bingley, which is kind of on the border between Leeds and Bradford. But as you can imagine, many people, when I say, "Oh yeah, I'm from Bingley," they have no idea at all where it is. So it's easier to just say Leeds. So I've said,
don't tell anyone you're from Bingley. No one's ever heard of it. But the reason I said Leeds is because I remember seeing Ellen Road behind you when you had your little English corner. There was
exactly,
which of course is Leeds football stadium, isn't it? Ellen Road.
Exactly. So Ellen Road is the road that the stadium is built on, and the stadium is also called Ellen Road. And luckily, I get to go to some matches from time to time because my dad works as a photographer for the Yorkshire Post, which is like a regional newspaper. So then sometimes he can get me in with all the press to go to the matches.
Fantastic.
Which is incredible. The only downside is that then you miss out on some of the atmosphere. That if you're watching a match with like reporters and stuff like that, you can't like randomly like scream and shout and celebrate. You have to keep it a little bit cool.
Yeah, especially if they're recording it. Then when you're swearing in the background.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah.
Excellent. Now, cool. You're teaching at the moment. Are you 100% online?
I am. I switched during COVID, as most people did. I was 100% offline before, up until
you've gone full
March?
Circle.
Yeah, well, there was very little choice, frankly, because everything I'd already had my own kind of little school anyway, but we did everything in person, and then obviously when COVID hit, we had to stop completely. I thought, well, we'll just bear this out for the next sort of 2 weeks, and then it'll all blow over, and then we'll be back to our normal ways. But that clearly wasn't going to happen. It became fairly clear after a couple of weeks that wasn't going to go away anytime soon. So we had to I was really against it at the beginning. I didn't want to go online. I didn't want to teach on Zoom. I was like, oh, this is stupid. It's just not the same. And, it's all going to go wrong. And I was, but in the end, we kind of decided, no, let's go for it. Let's bite the bullet and really sort of make sure that we actually do a good job of it and look at this as a way forward rather than a temporary measure, because, I didn't know when it was going to end. And I didn't want to be doing things in a sort of temporary manner for the next few months. So we threw everything into it. We switched 100%. And then we never looked back. That was it. When COVID went, we're like, nah, staying here, thanks. Because by that stage, we had people all around the world, not just local business. So, yeah.
No. It's definitely one thing that I'd like to bring up is that you said you bit the bullet. So we decided to bite the bullet. And this expression is really nice. And it's like when you make a decision and you actually make some actions on this decision and you say, okay, I was deliberating. I wasn't sure what to do. But then we thought, let's bite the bullet and let's go for it. Let's go 100% online. So that's exactly expression. And another one that I think I've mentioned before is to be a blessing in disguise. So the COVID, the pandemic, for many teachers, it was a blessing in disguise because we thought it was going to be a disaster in terms of work. Of course, it was a disaster in general, but it allowed us the opportunity to go online and then teach people from all over the world. So it was a blessing in disguise. It looked like it was going to be bad, but in the end, it was quite good in terms of work.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, there were some people who suffered greatly during the pandemic, but in terms of work, I agree with you. I think it certainly opened up a lot of avenues that were closed before, especially where I'm living, because the idea of people doing lessons online here in the south of Italy was pretty unheard of. I mean, a lot of the places didn't really even have websites. And this is not a criticism of the place. It's just that it wasn't really necessary because it's all local trade. So they're not really trying to attract people from anywhere else. But that all changed during COVID, and everybody went online. Suddenly, it was like this baptism of fire. Everybody's suddenly learning how to do online lessons, learning how to use the video conference equipment. Everybody suddenly built a website because it became necessary to have a presence online. So it gave them a bit of a kick up the arse, as it were, and sort of encouraged people to, get a bit more modern in their way of dealing with things.
Exactly. Perfect. And you were reluctant, as you said, you didn't really want to make the transition.
I'm included in that group of people who got to kick up the arse and, suddenly started.
Thank God. Thank God.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, looking back, I mean, it was one of the best things that's happened to me. And I know I don't mean that, again, talking about COVID as being a positive thing worldwide. Again, I don't want to say that it was brilliant for everybody, but it certainly, for me, it had, I think with certain situations, you've got to, you take the bull by the horns and, try and make something out of a bad situation. And if you can do that, then, everything that happens within reason is an opportunity. Yeah?
Exactly. Yeah, you have to take the bull by the horns. You have to take that situation full on, straight on, and make the most of it. Perfect. Now, I don't have a website. I think maybe it's because I'm a bit lazy, or maybe it's because I'm not actually advertising classes because I work teaching the team that I have of teachers. So then I don't have time to take on more classes, but maybe in the future, I'll get my own website and my own booking system and everything. Who knows what will happen? But
I hope so.
Yeah, fingers crossed. What about your website? Do you sell courses there, or do you have a booking system so people can book classes with you? What's it like?
Well, it's funny you should say that, because like when I was talking about, starting all the, the online stuff, building a website was one of the most difficult things that we had to do, honestly. I knew that we had to do it, but we didn't need it at that time because I didn't really have a lot of online business. It was mostly local people. But I knew we'd need one in the future. So we built one, and then it's a nightmare, honestly, because you don't know what to put on it. You don't know how to fill it, apart from the technical side of things. But once we built it, and it's cost money as well, it costs money to run, it costs money to have the domain. And then you look at it and think, why have we got it, to start off with? So I can understand why you haven't started immediately by building a website, because you think you don't necessarily need one. But I mean, it's certainly important to, I think, have that sort of presence, and it's a place where people can go and see a little bit more about who you are. They know that if they're going to do business with you, you're not going to just disappear, because you've got a kind of like a sort of an address, really. Yeah.
With this website, people know where to find you if anything goes wrong. You become more transparent, I guess.
Yeah, but it's not an easy thing to do. Setting up, as you say, payment systems. It's quite tricky, but yeah, we have all our courses on there now. We've got Conversation Club, we've got individual lessons, pre-recorded courses, so it's all under one roof, as it were. Yeah. There's John's English Club, not John's English Page, because we have John's English Page. The idea was to have John's English and then add whatever the product was. So John's English Page, John's English Club, John's English T-shirts, whatever.
Excellent. Perfect. Well, I'll add a little link in the video description in case anyone wants to check out John's English t-shirts in the future.
John's English shoes.
Exactly. But moving on from that, Tell me about some British English slang because I can see in the background that you have a lovely old phone box. It's really nice. Great background. But many people who are watching this or listening to this want to learn some British English. So, what kind of slang do you use or teach in your classes and use in your everyday life?
Yeah, it's quite a tricky thing to know how to teach slang because firstly, you what's your reason for teaching it? This is the first. I mean, whenever before you teach anything, there should be a reason for teaching it, and so you got to have that idea clear in your head. And a lot of people would say, slang's not the most important thing to teach, or how can non-native learners of English use slang and sound natural? It's also very regional. So I'm sure places, things they use in the north of England are completely different to some slang that we use in the south of England.
Yeah.
So, there are quite a lot of reasons, superficially for not teaching slang. But I think it's quite important because, people are watching more and more, for example, Netflix, Peaky Blinders, things that are set in Britain, and they hear these things and they maybe don't know what it means. So I like to teach slang for that reason, really, not necessarily so people can use it, but certainly so they can understand it, and also because it's culturally interesting. So generally speaking, I'll take like a general way of saying something and then say alternative ways that we might say it as well. Yeah.
So, off the top of my head, from something that I read maybe this morning, a nice phrase, which is kind of British English slang, is to bottle it.
Uh-huh.
We were speaking a little bit about football earlier, and if
Uh-huh.
you're in a good situation, scenario, and then maybe the pressure gets to you and you're not able to maintain that level of performance and get the result that you looked like you were going to achieve, we could say that you bottle it. So many
Mm-hmm.
people were saying that Arsenal Football Club bottled it. They bottled winning the Premier League because in the end, Manchester City won it, and maybe Arsenal just crumbled under the pressure. They bottled it. So to bottle it or to bottle something is to not perform as you're supposed to and not get the job done because of pressure, usually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so to buckle under pressure is a similar thing, isn't it?
Exactly. You bottled it, you buckled under pressure. So that's a nice little slang word and slang phrase. Over to
We have
you.
an expression. We've got an expression which is kind of the opposite. So when everything's against you and it looks like you're going to lose, we have this kind of expression which is to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. You know that one?
To
So to
snap.
snatch is like to grab something like this, to take it, with force. To snatch victory from the jaws, which is like the mouth, basically, the jaws of defeat. So it's kind of like a metaphor. So snatch victory from the jaws of defeat means that you get a win when it looks like you were going to lose.
In it.
In it, yeah. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. Yeah, right. So that's a nice little way of linking into our next bit of English slang, which is probably the most used at the moment in the UK, and it is in it, which
In it.
many people would think that in it just means like, isn't it? So
Yeah.
it's a beautiful day in it. And that is one way in which we use the phrase in it, isn't it? And it's very informal, very British, but we use it in many other ways too. If you just want to say yes, you could say in it. Do you like cats? Yeah, in it. In it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think it's pretty bad. Maybe because I'm sort of a bit old school, but in it, we used to use in it a lot when I was younger. But as you say, to mean, isn't it? So you say it's a nice day, in it. It's a nice day, in it, which would be it's a nice day, is it not? It sounds like Shakespeare, but it's a nice day, in it, and it's a question tag, really. It's you're looking for confirmation from the other person. It's a nice day, don't you think? This is really what it means. But now they use this same question tag in it for like any question. So you could say, for example, um, she looks good in it.
In it.
rather than she looks good, doesn't she? Which would be the correct question tag. And I think question tags are actually quite, they're not difficult to learn, but there's a lot of variation, isn't it? Once you've got the pattern, it's okay. So you haven't got a dog, have you? She doesn't want to do that, does she? Etc. So it takes a while to understand how to use them. And then I feel sorry for all these people who go to Britain and when they want to use their question tags and everyone just says, she looks good in it. You haven't got a dog in it. So yeah, I don't recommend using it. It doesn't sound like you're very well educated.
Exactly. It doesn't sound very well educated, but it's very good slang. And it's kind of another way of saying like, right, in this way with question tags, if you're not sure what question tag to use, you can always use right. Like, you like cats, right? You like cats.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And let's do one more British English slang word or phrase. So, John, over to you. The ball is in your court. Tell me British English slang or phrase that you like and you use a lot.
Yeah, well, we used to use a lot of Cockney rhyming slang when I used to hang out. Well, I say used to because I don't really use it in Italy. It would be quite confusing for people. And Cockney rhyming slang is actually quite good fun to use. And I'll explain the basic premise of it. Cockney rhyming slang is like a cultural thing, really. So you have to understand also some of the cultural references. But it started in the East End of London, supposedly as a way for the local people to speak and not be understood by some of the people from outside of the area. Often the people who worked in the markets, for example, they might want to say something like, I see this rich guy, let's get loads of money off him, but they need to speak in a way that he couldn't understand. So they invented this kind of slang, this is what they say, which is called Cockney rhyming slang. So, you must know some of the most famous Cockney rhyming slang.
Yeah, the dog and bone.
Which is the phone. Yeah. Any others?
Ruby Murray.
Which is a curry. Yeah.
There you go. I told you I like spicy food and curries.
Exactly. And then the most famous is obviously apples and pears. Which is what?
Pears is, I think I know this, but it slipped my mind. The stairs.
Stairs, exactly. So the basic trick is you take two words, apples and pears, which rhyme with the word. The second one has to rhyme with the word you want to say. So apples and pears, stairs, dog and bone, phone. But usually they're words which go together anyway, apples and pears, dog and bone, okay? So just to complicate things even more, what they will generally do is then they won't say the second word. So you'll have to know.
Apples.
Yeah, exactly. So go up the apples and grab the dog.
Go up the stairs and grab the phone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Go up the apples and grab the dog. So quite a difficult thing, but it's good fun once you know it. And they used to invent new ones as well. So we'd go down the pub to get a couple of Britneys, which would be Britney Spears beers.
Okay.
So let's go out for a couple of Britneys. When we used to have the Prime Minister Tony Blair, he was Cockney rhyming slang for hair. So we'd say, I'm going to the barber's to get my Tony cut, and then we'll go to the pub for a couple of Britneys. So yeah, that's it.
So many levels to this.
Yeah. But it's fun and it's interesting, I think, culturally. But that's really difficult to get in a short reel. Try it on Instagram, and it's hard to explain these things.
No, it's interesting because as you can see with half of these, I'm lost and I don't know what you're on about. I don't know what you're talking about. And then as you explain it and as you kind of test me, I'm starting to get it more and more. Like I knew a few of the basic ones and I'm sure I'm familiar with more, but I've never personally used them. And it's a very like London, Cockney, maybe Southern thing.
Yeah.
It's cool. Like I want to go to the barbers to get my Tonys done and then go to the pub and have some Britney.
You don't want to get your Tonys done. You need to get your Tony cut, I think.
There we go. Yeah, well,
Yeah,
same difference,
yeah,
right?
yeah, maybe. But there's another one I like, which is to have a giraffe, which is what?
Have a laugh. No.
To have a laugh, to have a good fun. But you can also say it if you think somebody's making fun or somebody's not being serious, or you just can't believe the situation. Oh no, you're having a giraffe. In other words, you're having a
Right.
laugh. Yeah,
Uh,
I can't believe it.
just to pick up on that little thing, because obviously I'm from the north, you're from the south. Pronunciation, of course, is different. And one of the main differences in British English pronunciation between the north and the south is the R. So you said
Hmm.
giraffe, right?
Hmm. Yeah, you say giraffe.
I'd say giraffe. And then instead of having a shower, I might decide that I'm going to have a bath.
Hmm.
What would you say?
I'd have a bath.
A bath. And
Yeah.
then I'm wearing a green t-shirt. Green
Hmm.
is similar. Well, it's the same color as grass. You play football
Hmm.
on the grass, and you would say
Glass.
the grass. So this is one of the
Yeah.
main differences in pronunciation between the north and the south, where in the south an a is often pronounced like r, and then in the
Yeah.
north it's often pronounced as just like a. Grass, bath, giraffe, and so on.
Yeah. I think, to be honest with you, I think for effect, for when you're speaking, I think the northern accent is better in that respect. I just think it sounds better.
Oh yeah,
Grass. Yeah. Especially when you're angry with someone, you want to say, "Yeah, bastard," because like
bastard.
yeah, exactly. When we say it, it sounds, "Oh, you bastard." But in the north, it's much more, "Yeah, bastard." It
a lot
sounds
of it,
better, isn't it?
a lot of the time it comes from like the back of your mouth or your throat. You bastard.
Oh, yeah, bastard. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You have to do
Also,
the mannerisms as well.
exactly. And you've got to look angry, like you're gonna beat someone up.
Yeah. But
Um,
you're only talking to your mum. Yeah, your mum, you bastard.
sorry, mum.
Yeah, not your mum.
No, of course not. Of course not. Now, let's move on to some random questions.
Mm.
I've seen from your profile that you have, correct me if I'm wrong, two cats.
Yeah, Alan and Mildred.
Oh, what are their names?
Alan and Mildred.
Okay. That leads me to so many more questions. So, why Alan and why Mildred?
Well, basically, I love giving human names to animals. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not that I do it on a regular basis because I haven't had many pets, but I like the idea of animals having human names. I just think there's something cool about it.
Uh-huh.
So Alan, and also it's got to be something I think kind of traditional. So Alan's quite a sort of an old-fashioned name. I just thought the logic was, what's the least likely thing a cat would be called? So I had to really go through it all, and typically people call them things like Tiddles and all that sort of typical cat names. So we just went for or Tiger. So it has to be something that's going to catch people off their guard. So the people are not expecting it. So Alan, we went for Alan. And then when we got the second cat, because we wanted to get some company for Alan, we got a black cat. And we decided to go to the same thing, but she was a lady. In fact, to be honest, I thought it was a male cat when I got it. We wanted to get two males because we understood that they get on better, but I don't know if that's true. So I think I wanted to call him Stanley. So we had Alan and
Strong
Stanley.
name.
Yeah, exactly. So I took the cat to the vet when we first got her from the rescue place, and to do the initial checkup. And the vet said, "What's her name?" And I said,
Stanley.
"Stanley."
How dare you
Stanley.
call her?
I said, "Did you say her?" He said, "Yeah, it's a female cat." I said, "Right." I said, "Well, okay, we're gonna have to change the name. I can't call her Stanley because Stanley's the typical man's name." So then we had to think of something. So we went for an old-fashioned female name, which is Mildred.
Mhm.
Good old, so I think it's an Anglo-Saxon name, is it? I don't know. It sounds it.
Sounds like Irene or Valerie or Rosemary,
Yeah,
one of these kind of
Violet.
from definitely the last century. But yeah, Mildred,
Yeah,
it's got a nice ring to it.
But of course, with all that, I don't know if you've got any animals. Do you have any
Not at the
pets?
moment, but I grew up with cats and they all had cat names. So first
Okay.
I Marmalade, and then we got
Uh-huh.
twins, and it was Kit Kat and Mooch. Why I'm
Okay.
not sure. And then the last cat that we had, who lived for like 25 years almost, was called Misty. And it's funny because Misty started off being really like standoffish and a little bit aggressive and didn't want to be very like affectionate with people. And if you kind of put her on somebody's lap, she would like dig her nails into their skin.
Hmm.
But then as she got older, she kind of mellowed in her old age and then started to become so much more loving. And she'd be like
Hmm.
purring and going up towards you and then wanting affection at any opportunity. And then I had a dog, but all of this was kind of growing up with my mum and dad. And since
Okay.
becoming independent, I've been wanting mainly a dog, but also I'm open to having a cat. But, just the responsibility, I don't know if
I
I'm
know.
ready for it yet, but
Well, yeah,
soon it'll
it's
happen.
not to be taken lightly. It's quite an important decision because you have to have somebody available. Well, firstly, we're at home all the time, so it's good because they've always got company. But it's very difficult if you want to travel.
Mhm,
So I refuse to put them in a shelter because I think it's too traumatic for them. So I want them to stay. Cats are quite territorial, so
mhm.
they like to stay here. So we have to call on friends and people to come have a free holiday. Luckily, we live near a beach, so we can say, "You want a free holiday? All you got to do is look after the cats.
It's
Here's
a
the keys. See
no-brainer.
you later."
No-brainer. You don't even have to think about it. You don't have to use your brain. It is a no-brainer. Of course they're going to
It
say,
is exactly, yeah. And so Alan and Mildred have got lots of aunties and uncles who come to visit them on a regular basis.
perfect. And do you prefer cats to dogs? This is the age-old question, cats or dogs?
It's a good question because I used to quite firmly say dogs. That was it, definitely dogs, because I just well, I suppose I had more experience with dogs. You meet dogs more often, don't you? Because when you're out for a walk and somebody's got a dog and it comes up and jumps on you, and they always seem very, full of affection and they're affectionate. So I like dogs. I thought cats, they seem to be a little bit more diffident. They don't really want to spend time with people. But I love all animals, don't get me wrong. But then in the end, we decided to get cats mainly because we got Alan during COVID. And it seemed like we were never going to leave the house again, let alone the country. So it seemed like a
Ellen will
good
be
time.
fine.
Yeah, exactly. And then, once COVID went and we could travel again, we realized traveling was quite difficult. But
Mhm.
anyway, that's another story. But I think cats, as a general rule, cats for introverts and dogs for extroverts. This seems to be it seems to me like a logical thing because for a dog, you've got to take it out and
Yeah.
you have to meet people and you're constantly meeting the same dog walkers and exchanging small talk and chatting, which for an introvert I suppose is a nightmare. So if you're taking your dog out, you're going to be hiding behind a tree and hoping that nobody stops you. So
Yeah.
I got this kind of theory that extroverts go for dogs and introverts go for cats. I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, it's true that if you have a really cute dog and you take the dog out for a walk, then you're gonna end up having small talk with a lot of people, and people are gonna approach you and be like, "Ah, what's he called? How old is he? He's so cute." Blah 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 blah. So I think it's true that you're more likely to make friends and meet people if you have a dog, just because other dog walkers speak to each other, and other people
Mhm.
who want to get a dog will also speak to you. Whereas with a
Yeah,
cat, you don't have this. There are very few people who like walk the cat, even though it has started to happen. I know a couple of people
really,
who do have
honestly.
like a lead and they take their cat out for a walk. If you live in like the city center and they're not able to go out and like exit and enter with a cat flap. But yeah, about being cats for introverts and dogs for extroverts, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'll have to do some
It's
research.
just a theory. I'll have to do some work on that.
Exactly. You can start. Let's make a poll. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
do you
yeah.
have a cat or a dog? And if so, are you an introvert
Tell us
or
in
an
the comments.
extrovert? Let us know in the comments. Awesome. So we've only got about 10 minutes, so let's move on to a
Yeah.
couple of things before we wrap it up and call it a day.
Hmm.
First, you have an Italian persona who appears on some of your videos.
Luigi.
Is Luigi, right?
Yeah.
Where did this come from and why?
Luigi. So, of anybody who doesn't know, you'd have to go really onto the Instagram page to have a look. So, but Luigi is one of many characters that I invented when I first started doing social media. Really, I started off very slowly and I was just doing a few picture posts. And then I got the courage to start doing other things. And within a couple of months, I was doing everything, all of this sort of pent up kind of creativity that I hadn't had a chance to use came out on the page in an attempt to sort of teach English. So I came up with lots of different characters. I was a woman, I was a man, I was an uncle, an auntie, a bloody drug dealer. I was all sorts.
Cat called Stephen.
Yeah, a cat called Stephen. So yeah, and one of the characters that came out was Luigi, who was an Italian who was trying to learn English. He's quite a sincere person, and he is frustrated by all the exceptions of the English language. And he's got an English friend called John, just a coincidence. And John is not very sympathetic, and he often makes fun of him and he'll tease him. And Luigi gets very frustrated. But he's a typical Southern Italian, so he's quite hot-blooded and he'll get angry. So generally what happens is I'll try and teach a couple of English expressions. Luigi will get them wrong. John will correct him. Luigi will get angry. And at the end, he'll shout. This is how it goes. So that's the sort of idea behind it.
Perfect. No, I like it. I mean, my name's Lewis, so if I ever moved to Italy, I would probably call myself Luigi, you know, my nickname for friends.
Maybe. I never thought of that.
Like in Spain, people would call me Luis, which of course is very similar to Lewis. If I went to Italy, it'd be Luigi. So I'd probably understand him, and I'd get frustrated and I'd get angry as well with all of these different rules and exceptions between one language and another, all these false friends as well. But no, I like it. I like the character Luigi. I've seen that he has a big nose and he usually wears a hat.
It's just a filter. I just picked a random filter off Snapchat and did that. And he's got a red nose and a hat. It doesn't mean that Italians have red noses and hats. It was really a random thing. I didn't really think it through. I called him Luigi because most of my followers at the time were Italian. I know Italians well. I know the accent. I know the language. And so I made him Italian. That was it. Had I lived in France, as you say, it would have been Louis. If I lived in Germany, it would have been Ludwig. So, you know, it just so happens that I live in Italy.
Exactly. If anyone's curious and they'd like to see what Luigi looks like, check out John's English page. And then you can check out the t-shirts as well that he has on John's English t-shirts.
I haven't actually got any. I have to quickly make some now.
This is a running joke, a continuous joke. But as I said, let's finish off with some idioms. Some idioms that we use as often as possible, ones that we teach a lot. We might have time for one or two each. So I'll kick us off and get us started with to be under the weather. If you are under the weather or you feel under the weather, it's just a nice way of saying that you feel a little bit sick. Not like really sick, but maybe you're coughing, you've got a cold, maybe you've got a headache. You could say that you are under the weather. So that's
okay. So I'll give you some examples of illnesses and things, and you tell me whether you could say under the weather or not. All right. So the flu.
I'd say, yeah, if I've got the flu, I'm a bit under the weather.
Okay. A broken leg.
No, I'm not under the weather. If you break any bones, you are not under the weather. Sorry.
Okay. So just mild illnesses then.
Mild illnesses usually related to something seasonal, like a cold, a flu, and so on. But yeah, no broken bones.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Awesome. Over to you. As I said earlier, the ball is in your court.
Okay. Well, here's one that my mum used to use, and because my mum's she's a very sort of innocent person, and she has this kind of traditional way of talking. A lot of people like her. She sometimes also appears on my page, and everybody's, oh, we love your mum because she speaks quite clearly, and she's yeah, a very sort of sincere, honest person, but quite innocent. And she used to use this expression if anybody was getting at her or teasing her or making fun, or if she felt like somebody was being mean to her, then she would say, "Sticks and stones can hurt my bones, but words can't hurt me." I think that's how it goes. Is it sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me?
Yeah, yeah.
But of course, with English expressions, we don't always say the whole thing. Everybody knows the whole thing, but we just say the first one. So she might just say sticks and stones. And you know that she's that what you say to me doesn't affect me. So I'm going to go for that one, sticks and stones. If somebody's being mean to you, and you want to tell them that what they say cannot affect you, then you just say sticks and stones.
Okay. And you have to do it with exactly those
that face,
that face, the gestures, the body language, sticks and stones.
Yes, yeah. But yeah, because you can't really do it in a kind of, you can't go sticks and stones. Doesn't work. It's this typical sort of thing my mum would say. Sticks and stones, you bastard.
Awesome. No, now I'm going to describe an idiom and I want you to guess it. And then we can do the same and you can describe one and I'll guess it.
Okay.
So, this is an idiom which is used to describe someone who many people would think they would be a good person to be in a relationship with. So let's say you have a single friend and then you want to hook that person up with someone else. And this other person is very attractive, very intelligent, very friendly, good job, etc. How would you describe this person?
You're talking about yourself, by the way.
Well, of course not. Me? Never.
So you might, if I understand it correctly, is it he or she is quite a catch?
Exactly. Like you catch a ball. So to be a catch or to be quite a catch is to describe someone that you think is a good bachelor or bachelorette, and you would recommend someone to try to get with this person because they're quite a catch. They'd be a good boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, or wife.
But you said about like catching a ball, but I always thought about fishing is quite a catch. And so like you get a decent fish and you go, oh, I've got quite a catch. So this is how and you said, you talked about being hooked earlier. So I thought the two things that's why I got it. So it's to say that somebody's quite a catch means that they're like a prize. They're like a good person to conquer, to have as a partner.
Exactly. No, perfect. To be quite a catch. And you're right. With fishing, it works, makes so much more sense.
Yeah. Not that she looks like a fish. She just.
No.
Okay, here's one for you. It sounds quite violent, but in reality, it's quite a positive thing. And it has to do with maybe taking the life of two flying creatures. But in reality, what it means is it just means to manage to do two things at the same time, to manage to get two objectives with the same action. What is it?
So this idiom is quite common in many languages, I believe, and it is to kill two birds with one stone. In
exactly.
languages, people say one shot. But in English, you kill two birds with one stone if you do two, let's say, good or productive things at the same time. Often I go for a run and I listen to French music. So I'm killing two birds with one stone. I'm doing exercise and I'm studying a little bit of French.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
I think in Italian they say to catch two pigeons with one bean or something like that. They don't actually kill the birds like we do in Britain, metaphorically.
Okay, that's a good thing then. That's better. In Spanish, they kill two birds with one shot, like one bullet almost.
It's cheating.
Cheating. I'm afraid we have to stop there because we've run out of time. I have a class in a minute. But John, it has been an absolute pleasure speaking about all of these random stuff, about your life, about Cockney rhyming slang with the Birds and the Britneys and the Blairs, and then moving on to cats, idioms, and so on. So, yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining us.
Well, the pleasure's been all mine, honestly. It's been really, very nice to see you. And, if we get a chance to do it again, maybe in the future, who knows?
Perfect. So yeah, if you'd like to check out John's page, I will put it in the video description. If you have any questions for either of us, let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much, and cheerio.
Take care. Bye.
Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and see you next time.